and it was, the uncut where Dante dies at the end, and it was before the really great soundtrack. So it was really crude and rough, but and the gum guy scenes ran a little longer and weren't as broken up because when they finally got to Miramax and they started tightening some things up, they cut it a little more. They removed a few things. They inserted Jay and Bob outside in the middle of the gum guy rants, which if you see on the DVD Blu-ray or the DVD 3-box set, or the Blu-ray, they do include that original uncut that was what was the VHS that was sent to all of us in the cast.
Yeah, I believe it's on the Clerks 10 DVD set, am I correct?
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
I believe it's on the Clerks 10 DVD set, if I'm right.
Oh, right, absolutely. It's on that, and then, of course, subsequently when they did, I don't know if it was 15 years, the DVD was now like Blu-ray, when they threw it all on Blu-ray and they upscaled it, which, by the way, it really did change, enhance the actual look of the film and the audio when they did go to that Blu-ray. That wasn't just like a cash grab to go Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can attest to that. I worked at a H.H. Gregg, and I brought that disc in as a way of testing open box TVs to see how good see if Blu-ray players work or the TV would work. And yeah, it actually does look incredible.
It does. It looks really great. But it looks great still in that rugged punk rock raw kind of way, but just really rich. The blacks are richer and the quality of the picture has more of a richness to it. But one of the beauties of that film, and one of the beautiful things I felt, and I think a lot of people agree, is the rugged, almost punk rock element to that movie actually works in its favor,
Yeah, sort of like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where all those beat-up VHS copies of the film kind of give that movie the documentary feel.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point, actually. I can agree with you on that sentiment. Because we actually have it paused right here, and the grainy look does make it more old school. Even though it is the 90s, it's still very old school, which is not a bad thing. It makes it more classic, really. It's more of a classic film that way.
Kind of looks like
it does, and really that wasn't intentional in that way as much as it was a financial thing and a lighting thing. Black and white was less expensive, and it was easier to light. So, it wasn't like aesthetically he chose black and white. It was financial, but as luck would have it, as everything with Clerks, very luckily, Lady Luck was on its side. All of those things played into the overall aesthetic appeal of the film.
One more question I have about your scenes. We've had Marilyn on the show. By the time people hear this episode, we'll have Marilyn on the show. What was it like for you to get sprayed by a fire extinguisher from Marilyn?
I love Marilyn. She's really a sweetheart. And on the set, I had maybe for a few days like a little baby crush on her, I'll be honest with you guys. But, I got to let you down and in on some of the movie magic. The crowd never really gets shot with an actual extinguisher. Those were cutaways, and we're getting hit with tons of talcum powder.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Because, you can't really shoot real fire extinguishers at people. It's super unhealthy to breathe that shit in, and it would have really been much harder for them to shoot and film and maintain.
Oh,
so
true.
it was a little bit of trickery.
That's fine. That's fine.
I don't know if she tells the story too. I mean, she doesn't go along and say, yeah, it was a real fire extinguisher and I blasted those guys. But it was like some movie faking magic. But she's awesome. I love her, and it's always a treat whenever I get to see her at a convention or we stay in touch. And I can't speak enough about a lot of the folks from the first film. We did develop a nice sort of little celluloid family all these years later, even though we mostly communicate through, social networking because we all live in different places.
You know what? Social networking sometimes is the best way. I'm a Jersey boy that lives in Milwaukee. Oh, by the way, I should bring this up.
I saw that.
We are alumni of the same high school.
I know. I remember you telling me that when you reached out to me, and I thought that was pretty goddamn cool and something I don't think I've run into anybody from my hometown and my hometown high school that is part of, say, podcast world or from the view, connected to the Viewist universe or to the film world in a pop culture way, the way you guys are, which are very cool. I mean, I've had friends and folks from my hometown who we connect, and it's nice. A lot of them are pretty supportive of the film and all of that. But it's the first time out of the clear blue, somebody said, "Oh, by the way, I graduated Garfield High," and I was shocked by that. It was great.
Yeah, it was really. It threw me for a loop too when you added me back before we started talking. I'm like, Garfield High School. It just doesn't come up often. It was a really cool moment for me. It was actually nice because it's a small town, and you just
right. How long have you known that I was from Garfield High?
Literally from when I added you on Facebook. Literally.
Oh, so it's not like something you knew from the past. Just
no clue.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Yeah.
It was a nice surprise. It was a very, very nice surprise.
I must have been like, oh my God, he went to my high school.
Yeah, it threw me for a loop because I had messaged Sal, who's my co-host, who's also a GHS graduate, and I messaged him. I'm like, "Did you know this?" He's like, "No, I had no clue, no idea." So that's pretty cool. So
it is. My God, I think I graduated. I don't know if you guys were you born?
Well, what class are you?
I was the class of 81, man.
1 year before I was born. I'm class 2000.
Dang!
I'm class 2000.
And
so
you're about 6 years before I was born.
Yeah, well, you're from here, but yeah, I'm 82. I'm born 82. So
that's crazy.
So that's pretty crazy, actually. Yeah. So all right, well, I have one more question for you. It's unrelated to this movie. Tell me about shooting Clerks, because I saw this and I don't know much about this movie except for what I've seen in details. Tell me about shooting Clerks.
Well, it's what you call a biopic, where it's a story with actors playing the parts of. It's based on Kevin's life from the time he was in high school till the time he basically finishes Clerks, and it gets released to Sundance, and it gets picked up by Miramax. They take that chunk of time, and they made a script, and they stick very, very close to the facts, and they had many of the folks from the original movie involved, and they also had Kevin's blessings, and Kevin was a part of it as well. And really sweet bunch of people from overseas. They did a short where they reenacted a story out of one of Kevin's books about a time period when Kevin was sort of sticking close to Jay during one of Jay's times when he was having a very difficult time with his drug addictions. And they made a short, and it was called, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of it, The 12 Steps of Jason Mewes. And it's a really sweet reenactment of a story that Kevin published in his blog, and I think eventually in his book, about a handful of days that he spent by Jason's side, where Jason was having a hard time staying away from heroin, and they go off on a journey where they go looking for this collectible figurine doll, and that's the whole basis of this short film. And they did such a bang-up job with it, and Kevin finally, it got through to Kevin, and Kevin was floored by it, so he embraced these guys, and they thought, you know what? I mean, they're really, really huge fans from overseas, and they thought they would do a full feature-length film on the story of how Kevin made the movie Clerks. So I'm giving you a really long-winded version of it, but that's what the film is. The script went through many changes, and very many different cast people were coming in and out. And Brian O'Halloran's in it, Marilyn Gigliotti's in it, Jay Mewes, I believe. I'm not sure. I know Kevin pops in it. Vincent Pereira pops in. Brian Johnson. The comic book men pop in. There's a lot of people from Kevin's real world and from the first Clerks who also pop in and have cameos. I eventually ended up getting the role of Kevin's father, which was really a sweet and amazing thing for me to get to do. I didn't know Kevin's dad. Oddly enough, there is a little bit of a resemblance between us with the goatee and the facial hair, and sort of the overall look is not that much of a stretch per se. And he's not a very big on-screen character in shooting Clerks, but he's a very important character in Kevin's life, and he's a big part of that story. So it was a real honor. And I can't speak highly enough about those guys either. They did an amazing job, and it was a real passion project. They didn't have a ton of money, but they had Kevin's blessings, and they got a bunch of us from the original to do cameos. And
well, that sounds like a lot of fun. You know what that reminds me of? You know what it kind of sounds like? It sounds like almost like a different version of like what was that Tom Hanks movie? Saving Mr. Banks. Saving Mr. Banks. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Really? Maybe
not so far off, really. Yeah.
Yeah. It would. Another example, the same kind of thing. Good call, Kyle. Good call.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd make a great double feature with Ed Wood.
Oh man, that's funny. You know, I love Ed Wood. It's one of my all-time favorite films. I think what they did with shooting Clerks and the guys that were involved, because they really have a genuine love and respect and affection for Kevin and his whole wacky world. They didn't over-glamorize it in any way, but they made sure to try to stay as close to the truth as possible, and they embellished little things here and there. But it really is a sweet movie. It has a lot of heart. I mean, when we screened it down in Atlantic Highlands, Kevin was there, and I know he had teared up, and it was really sweet to see that and be a part of it. I mean, never did any of us dream, not only would the movie last as long as it did and touch so many people, but that someday a whole nother crew of young filmmakers would want to make a film about how that film was made and actually cast actors playing actors. It's like really like a crazy loop.
Yeah, it's very meta.
Yeah.
It's actually very meta.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
So, well, I actually, we have not seen it yet. We do want to see it when it comes out. We're looking forward to it. So, we're really excited about it.
We'll be there with bells on.
Yes, definitely. Great. So, Scott, thank you so much for taking time out tonight. This was a lot of fun, and actually a pleasure for us. So, this is really cool.
Oh, you're totally welcome. Thanks, guys. Enjoy and keep me posted. And I'm curious to hear some of the other bits. It's such an interesting concept to me. I know you had a lot of fun with Marilyn, or you will, or you have. I'm not sure. I'm sure at some point, if you reach out, you could probably get Brian O'Halloran on board. He's hard to get a hold of. He's a super busy guy, but he loves to do these things.
We'll have a lot of fun with American. Did have a lot of fun with Marilyn. It's like a Doctor Who recording out of order. It's like a big ball of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
Yes,
that's awesome.
So let me just get our plugs in, and then we'll sign off out of here. Our show, Filling the Void Podcast Network. Find us on Spreaker and iHeartRadio and all over the place. We're now on also TuneIn Radio and other locations such as that. We are part of the Movies by Minute family, moviesbyminute.com, and thank you to the guys over Star Wars Minute, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here because they thought of this idea. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're at Clerks Minute everywhere. And thank you all for listening.
I just got to say something. I just realized the guys at Star Wars Minute, they're the Richard Linklater to our Kevin Smith.
That's a weird way of looking at it. You're absolutely right.
Their podcast is the Slacker to our Clerks.
Hey, that's a great way of putting it, and we'll have to tell them that when they come on the show for Star Wars Week. Because both of those guys are coming on it for Star Wars Week soon. So there you go. It's going to be a weird moment. So, Scott, why don't you give some plugs out for you?
I've got, other than shooting Clerks, which we're all looking forward to being available in a wider spectrum, I shot a sequel to a horror film, and the sequel's called Darkness Waits, and the original was Dead Woman's Hollow. I'm excited about that. It's an indie horror film that got a lot of nice response, so they put together a sequel. So keep your eye out on that. I'm very easy to get a hold of on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Keeping busy with lots of projects always, and I thank you guys for reaching out, and I had a really fun time.
No problem. Till next time, thank you for joining us here on Clerks Minute. I'm Blake.
I'm Kyle.
Have a good day, everybody.
And our love for you is like a truck, Berserker.
Smoking weed, doing coke, drinking beers,